Hey everybody, Jim from Jim's Holiest of Coleus. Whoa boy, we just had a thunderstorm here. I'm talking about, I don't have to worry about watering any of the Coleus or the grass for a few days. We really had some downpour past hour and a half. It's really been a crazy weekend. Yesterday it was just dark, thunder clouds, but it just never rained here. Today's completely different. A lot of rain. That's good. Real heavy downpours. So, but anyway, I wanted to do this video because I got a few requests from some followers, particularly Mark Hubert from over in England. How you doing, Mark? Keep up the good work, about cuttings and rootings. And I'm a big rooting guy. I keep my rootings all through the fall and winter, and he and some other followers are like, no way, come on, you can really keep your rootings going you can keep them for months and months on end until next spring, and plant them. I'm like, absolutely, yes you can. So I'm going to show you how I do it. And again, not all Coleus will do well as cuttings, and if you have a Coleus like my Lord Voldemort, that's a Coleus that does well. I don't want to use a double negative. It does well as rooting. So, but because I only have the one plant, I keep multiple cuttings. But some Coleus that are tender, like the Wizard Rose, the really tender Coleus, the thinner ones, may not do as well because they're very delicate. But the hardy ones like fishnets, Lord Voldemort, Defiant somewhat, will do okay. And even the my flamingos did really well, better than I expected. I did lose maybe one or two, I think, but they did really well. So I'm going to give you just show you basically what to do to keep your rootings, and it's an alternative if you don't want to overwinter potted Coleus. I don't want to keep potted Coleus in the house. I spent enough time in the greenhouse. I spent enough time from February up through about to now to taking care of my potted Coleus. I like to take a break, and I really don't have the room to keep these big, giant, beautiful Coleus. So it's part of how I do things. And I have seeds, and I use the fall to recharge my batteries. If you're following along, you know this. I use this time to recharge my batteries, get ready for next year. I have my seed sales, my eBay listing, Jim's Coleus. So I have that upcoming. That's some work. But I keep my rootings, I keep them in bud vases, and I keep them starting now straight through into spring, into next year. And then I plant them just like the Lord Voldemort here and the flamingo. So okay, so let's do a real quickie. Yes, you can keep cuttings, rootings, cuttings for months and months on end, and the secret is this. Okay, so here we are. Let's conserve some water here. All right. Okay, first thing you need to do, if you want to follow along and you want to keep cuttings, if you want to follow along with me, I invite you to. And I guarantee that if you just follow these simple instructions that I give you, that you will have Coleus well rooted, ready to go to be planted next spring. Okay, so first thing you want to do, look, do you need these bud vases? No. I like them because they're colorful, they're decorative. You don't need them. You can use tall glasses, but I prefer the bud vases. I go to the dollar store, they're $1 each, different colors, different shapes. So I buy a bunch of them. So that's your first step. Get a bud vase. I like the transparent ones, the colorful transparent ones. Gets the light through so you can keep track of how much water you have in there. I do have a handful of these. They're not transparent. They're not translucent, transparent. You're always going to find that. You're going to find some dead leaves. So because I have some of these huge, thick fishnet stems, and I do this year after year. This fishnet stem here is from a fishnet cutting from last year, which was from a fishnet cutting from the year before, 4 or 5 generations of the same fishnet plant that I keep cutting year after year, and I keep larger ones. I have 2 or 3 of these larger standard bud vases. They're a little bigger, and I successfully keep these fishnets going, and I have a few others going with this bud vase. But in general, it's good to get these clear ones, the colorful ones, so you can keep track of the water. You can see what's going on in there, and as a reminder that you need to change the water. That's the next big point. That's the next biggie on successfully keeping Coleus cuttings, rootings, for months on end. Okay, all right, so I know we're all busy. We don't have the time to get the stuff that we need to get done every week, never mind things that we want to. If you're really dedicated, and it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's not something that is set, it's got to get done, but if you do your best, like I do, to do weekly water changes, the more frequently and the most consistently you keep your water changes going, the better your chances are keeping your Coleus going all through the fall. It's still summer, but it's technically fall. We got another few weeks till it's fall. All fall, through the winter, into spring, and that's also relative on where you live. If you live in a climate, you're in the south, 10, 9, 8 zone where it gets, may not have a winter, then you can just do what you got to do. You can do whatever you want, root them and then plant them. Ultimately, these will all be potted next year, and 90% of them will live. There may be a few that don't do well, and that's why I keep multiple, and I only keep a few varieties. I don't root every single. I don't root Kongs because I have plenty of seeds. If I have lots of seeds, I don't root. I don't keep rootings. I don't have seeds from the fishnets. I do buy them from Rosy Dawn each year. I'll buy 1 or 2, but I like to keep rootings because I want to have a jump start for the spring. And that's how I get those big giant planters, although I can just easily do that through Rosy Dawn. But I do like to buy from Rosy Dawn. I like to support them, so I buy a number of rootings, but I mostly purchase new varieties from Rosy Dawn and a few of my favorites. So, okay, so let's do real quick weekly, if best you can. If you could do this, hey, if you have lots of time and you love your plants, if you want to do it twice a week, go for it. But in general, here we go. Here's a Defiance. Now a Defiance, I have actually 2. This one has gone to seed, and that's why I saved it. So I've been keeping this outside, but here is a Defiance rooting. Now this has been in here for about 3 weeks. Let's shut the water off here. So you can see it's got a pretty extensive root ball. But what else do you notice? Look how clean those roots are. You see any? There's a little bit of debris. You don't see any mold. You don't see any green slime. You don't see bugs or anything. you see a nice, clean, structured root ball. There's a little bit of debris on the bottom here. So that's why it's important to clean, to change your water. And when I change my water, I gently, let's get a little better. I don't think we need to get too involved here. It's not rocket science. Don't mess with the root ball, but just give it a gentle rinse. You may see some dead leaves here up top. I'm not rinsing the plant per se, but just inspect it and get as much, just give the root ball a gentle cleaning. Change your water, inspect your glass. See there's some debris in there. Rinse it out well, make sure there's no mold. You know, I do keep my rootings by a window, and they do get a fair amount of direct sun, but your rootings do need bright light. They don't need direct sun, but the direct sun may cause, if you don't change your water, it may change, you know, you might get some of that mildew, mold, because the water, but another thing is the water's not going to really stick around here very much because all of these roots are really thirsty, so the likelihood of it really molding up it's very slim because the water's not going to be in there long enough, which is important. Another reason why you want to keep water, you want to frequently change your water, so you're giving your plant the maximum chance to make it through the fall and winter. And it's not that difficult. Defiants are a more delicate Coleus compared to fishnets or Lord Voldemort's. And what will happen is this may or may not make it. This is pretty extensive. This one does have the seeds going, so I'm only keeping that. I normally don't keep rootings that are going to seed unless I need the seeds. So this one happened to break, so I already had seed stalks developing, so I actually keep this one outside. All right, now here's another Defiance, but notice something. This one's been in here for a while too. This one's been here probably a month. But what do you notice here? We don't have really that rich, large amount of red here, just on the bottom here. And you got some dead leaves here. There's actually two in here, but they're both the same. Now, based on my experience, this may or may not, both of these, and they'll separate these soon. They're really getting entangled, but you can keep two in one vase and let the root balls connect. It's not really gonna, I prefer to keep them separate. It's just that this one here, you can see I just kind of mixed it together. I tore them apart, but they haven't been here together. And actually I separate them because I do change the water weekly. But because this is more of a delicate Coleus, it may or may not make it. And you can see some of them, the leaves are already, you'll see this happen. They'll start to discolor, brown, and die. So I don't keep a lot, and I'm also going to cut this down. I really don't need this long. It's starting to grow up here, but I don't really need a long, complicated rooting. So here's another one here. This one's not doing it too well. It's starting to brown a little bit. So look at your rooting. Try to care for your rooting. You don't have to actively trim it, but if you see a root, you're going to see different things are going to happen to your rootings. When I say rooting, some people call them cuttings, rootings. I'm going to use the words intertwining. They're rootings, they're cuttings, and then they root, so they're rootings. But you're going to see the leaves possibly turn brown or drop or fall. Your rooting may not do well, and it may die. You throw it out, That's why I keep multiple ones. It's not that you did anything wrong. Every variety is a little different. Just in general, based on my experience, if I was a betting man, I would bet this one will last long before this one will. But I have had these last all fall and winter into next spring. And how you do that, again, is frequent water changes. I can't stress that enough. That is the #1 thing that you can do to make sure that your cuttings, and you can have 100 of them, frequent weekly water changes. Make sure your your cuttings get plenty of daylight. That they don't need sustained sunshine direct. They need bright light, whether it's on a windowsill or a bay window like I have, or my port windows like this in my living room. There's the gang. I usually keep 2 cuttings per window here, and you can see why I like the colored translucent bud vases, because they look really beautiful in here. And these get a nice bit of daylight all day, and then in the evening they get a direct shot of sunlight during sunset, and all my rootings do really well here. Sure, I will lose some leaves. The fishnets do well here. These flamingos did really well here, and my defiance. So this is another reason why when I designed this edition, that I designed it with these 3 port windows, because they make it just an excellent place to keep rootings. Okay, now again, that's a flamingo. As the months pass, I'm going to lose a few leaves. It will grow. It will continue to grow. I may get some new shoots. It will grow, but as the as daylight becomes shorter and shorter, less light, they're not going to grow as fast, and they're going to start to thin out a little bit. They're not going to be as vibrant. Doesn't mean they're dying. It's just they're going into the dormancy, just like an overwintered one is no difference. The difference is the medium. These have direct water. Your indoor pots have soil, and you can see the roots are just starting. I just cut this 2 or 3 days ago, and you can see the roots are already starting from the bottom. Okay, so you can see here, this one really needed to be changed. Check your stem. If it feels slimy at the end or whatever, it may do that in the beginning. Just give it a little cut. You can actually scrape, especially these fishnets. They may root. It may take them a little longer to root because they have a very thick stem, so the roots will be very stubborn to come out. They'll root from the bottom at first. So same thing though. This I just cut just 2 days ago maybe. So frequent water changes no matter what. There's just a few, maybe not even a week, and that bright window, the little windows there in the living room, really kickstart these rootings. There's not much debris in here, but I like to give them just a gentle rinse. And this is your ritual. This is all you need to do weekly to keep your rootings going. Just rinse your root balls, frequent water changes. Once the root ball gets very complex, gets really large, and these get huge. If you've been following along, if you looked at some of my videos from years ago, last year, this very pot here, the Coleus, the fishnet that's outside, that huge pot, were rootings, and the root ball in this is the size of this vase. It was huge. So I rinsed the root ball. I make sure I rinse the root ball gently, any debris, rinse it, frequent water changes, and I guarantee you will do well. You will be able to keep your rootings. And if you're intent on keeping a bunch of rootings, then you have even a higher chance, because the more you have, then obviously the chances of losing all of them would be, there would be a major catastrophe, something you did totally wrong. But there really is no rocket science here. There's no PhD and engineering degree needed. This is just basic water. See some of those little leaves in there? I gotta trim those. You don't really want leaves, so let's do that now. I really don't want to upset the apple cart too much here. It's not really a big deal, but we don't really need these little leaves coming in. So you don't want any stems or anything coming in on the bottom. So keep that going. Make sure all of the roots are in the water. And I fill it up to the top. It's going to root up high, but I like to fill it to the top because I want to make sure that it has lots of water. And yeah, hey, do I change these weekly on the dime? I try my best. I really do. And yes, 90% of the time I do. I'm not going to lie to you. There may be a time where a week just gets away from me. I'm like, oh, you know what? I haven't changed that in a week, over a week, maybe 10 days. And I'll do it. And by then I'll notice, I'll see the water is down in here. It's down in here. And I'll know. Or some of them are just so thirsty that I'm like, I always look at them and I'm like, holy moly, look at that. That is one thirsty Coleus. So make sure we give it fresh water. Okay, so and here again, I still haven't really set up. I keep about 2 dozen rootings. I actually have more flamingos. And again, I keep primarily flamingos, fishnets, Lord Voldemort, and I did manage to cut one of these moon dusts. I did buy one moon dust plug from Rosie Dawn. It was a beautiful plant, but I did sell it. I grew it up into a nice planter, and I was back and forth on whether or not I was going to keep it. And somebody grabbed it up, and that's fine. But it's patented anyway, so I could not propagate the seeds or sell them. But you can see this one here just starting to curl a little bit. This may or may not do well, but I think it's been in here a good few weeks, and this was an old jelly jar. So I need to change the water in this one too now. But this is a moon dust, and I think I'm going to give my best. I'm really going to give this extra attention and make sure that I get this thing to go to stay alive the whole fall and winter, so I can maybe grow another plant next year. And that's all my intention here. That's why I keep, the number one reason why I keep the rootings is to plant them next year. Do I have to wait till next year? No, if I wanted to put one or two of these in a pot, I could do that, but I don't. Me personally, I don't want to. If you do, if you want to, you go ahead, go right ahead. If you have room and you want to keep soiled pots in your home, go right ahead. I don't. I choose not to. I'm fine with keeping these rootings. It's all a matter of what you're interested in doing. And here's another flamingo. And that's fairly recent. And you can see where the roots just come in different spots and so forth. So these I did not change yet. You see that debris in the bottom? That's why it's important to change your water weekly, because that will rot and it'll decrease the chances, it'll increase your chances of having problems. So change your water weekly. Change your water weekly. Repeat after me. Change the water weekly. All right, guys and gals, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this real simple, basic how to keep rootings going all year long. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this really helps. I wanted to make it real simple, and it is very simple. Weekly water changes, keep your root balls clean, and enjoy your Coleus rootings all fall and winter, and then we can repot them next year. Got my Steelers, my old school Steelers. I'm a Steelers fan. We'll watch a little football today. It's Sunday. The weather's not too great, so we're going to relax, watch some Coleus with my buddies from South Park here, and enjoy our Sunday and relax. So I hope you do as well, and I hope you really enjoyed this video, and hope you find it helpful, and you can do it. Trust me, you can keep Coleus rootings going for months and months on end. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. There's more to come here. Jim's Holy as a Coleus. Take it easy, everybody.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3,